What's up, guys? Alright, so this is Mike with that LT1 Supra, as you can see right there. Let me turn this down a little bit. Alright, guys, just want to talk to you guys about what it takes to get the Holley EFI working on the Gen 2 LT1. Got a few notes here. I'll go over some parts, all the different sensors and all the stuff that goes along with it. So first things first, and I'll put all this stuff in the description on the video, part numbers. I'll try and put the links in there and prices on everything, but I'll go over that real quick right now. As far as parts goes, you have the main part is your Terminator X. It's the 24X setup for the LS1. Get the one with the EV1 injectors. Part number is 550-903. The list price on it is $999, so $1,000. I got mine through Summit Racing. One thing that I would highly recommend is buying through a dealer, somebody that deals with Holley products, only because if you have any issues, it's very easy to get that taken care of. I bought mine through Summit Racing. I didn't have any problems with it, but I read online there's a bunch of people having issues with getting orders that weren't correct or getting the wrong, connectors on the harness and all kinds of crazy stuff. But if you go through a dealer, it'll be a lot easier to get things exchanged, or if you have a bad part or whatever it is. You need the Torqhead. Well, okay, first of all, I use the Torqhead signal kit. It's the 24X signal kit. It was about $580. I'll talk about why I went with that kit over the other options out there. Also, you need to get some shielded wire for the extension of the cam and crank sensors. So I bought that through Holley. It's a 25-foot roll of shielded cable. It's the same cable they use for those connectors. You also need a crankshaft sensor connector, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on that. Like I said, part numbers, everything will be on the description. So let's I'll show you guys the car and kind of go over a few things with you. So this is the Supra here, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen, and my custom intake and all that stuff. But let's go over the main parts of this. Alright, so obviously you get rid of the OptiSpark and you have coils. These are just some LS coils that I picked up for free from a buddy of mine. You do need to get some coils and plug wires, so that's something to add to the list. I'm not going to put that in there only because I didn't have to pay for those, but you do need to source those out on your own. It's going to be kind of hard to see. I got my light, but there is the Torqhead setup down here. The reason I went with Torqhead over anything else, it was a little bit more expensive, but the reason I went with this was because I didn't have to remove the timing cover. To me, that was a big plus. I didn't really want to remove the timing cover because on my engine it's extremely tight on the oil pan clearance, and I did not want to have to mess with pulling the motor or anything like that. And you have to run a later model timing cover for the crankshaft sensor. So with the Torqhead setup, you remove the water pump and the lower crank pulley and the hub, and that's it. Yeah, everything else is just bolt on from there. Put your water pump back on, and you're good to go. So that part is done. Now I mentioned a connector. Let me reach down here and unplug this real quick, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. The only thing is, on the Holley uses LS style. This is all LS style connectors and all that good stuff. This is the crankshaft sensor here. So this connector here is for a, well, the Torqhead kit, the crankshaft sensor uses a different crankshaft sensor. It is not for an LS motor. I think it's for the older Vortec. I think it might be a Vortec, but it's a 454. I think it's 7.4 liter. But you can find this connector with a pigtail at O'Reilly's for about 30 bucks, and I just soldered it into the Holley harness, and this plugs right into the Torqhead crankshaft sensor, and that takes care of the crankshaft. Then I'll show you. So you have the two sensors, the two connectors here. So if you look closely, they're very, very similar, but they have these little ridges here, and this one doesn't. So one will plug in and one won't, even though they look identical. So that's why you had to go with the other crankshaft sensor connector, and that way it'll plug in. Also, so the Holley setup, this is made for an LS, okay? To get this to work with the Torqhead signal kit, because of the sensors that they use in the signal kit, the cam and crank sensor, both of these connectors here, the cam and crank connectors, you got A, B, and C. I guess it depends on which way you're looking at it, but A, B, and C pins, and the two outer pins, which is going to be A and C, and that depends on which way you're looking at it. The two outer pins on both of these connectors need to be swapped. So you would take one pin here and swap it with that pin there on both of these connectors. Okay, now it's required because of the type of sensors that come with the Torqhead kit. It's very easy. You pop this white piece off of the connector, and you can take a pick and pretty much just pull these pins out and swap them, and then put it back together. It's very quick and easy. The roll of 25-foot cable that you have to get from Holley, you could probably use any type of wire. I used the shielded wire that came in the harness originally, just because I'm a little paranoid about picking up interference. You know, I don't want any kind of interference on the cam and crank signals. So if you look, these originally were a lot shorter. I cut them back over here on the Holley harness, and I basically just extended them, and they run down to the front down here. 25-foot roll was excessive, obviously, but it's the shortest amount of cable you can get. And the cable, when you get it, if you buy it from Holley, it comes with these three wires, and they're the same color as what's already in your harness, so you could it's real easy. So you can just match up the colors and just extend your two connectors for your cam and crank. I'm gonna see if I can plug this back in real quick. Let's see. All right, so let's talk about a couple other things. All right, so obviously, you know, it's very obvious that I don't have a stock intake manifold. But I was running this on the stock intake manifold before I put this on there, and I was running it with the it's the stock style throttle body. Pretty much everything is plug and play on the throttle body. Your IAC motor, so I'm not using an IAC. Okay, you can see I don't have this LS style IAC plugged in. I was not running an IAC on the LT throttle body as well. Just my car, I didn't want to fight IAC issues with the old style throttle body. I don't have any accessories. I don't need to raise the idle. It's a stick shift car, so it's very easy. Just set the idle with the idle screw, and I never have to worry about it again. But I did test this the Holley system with this throttle, with this IAC motor. It worked fine. The TPS, the connector, it's very similar. I mean, it's just slightly different. It does plug in to the stock style. This is just my spare motor over here, but that connector for the Holley does plug in to the stock style TPS sensor. The connector is very similar. You don't have to change any wiring or anything like that. It will plug in, but the tab is a little bit different, and it doesn't necessarily lock down. You kind of have to push it on there. You can buy, I bought this because I wasn't sure if I was going to need it with the stock throttle body, but you can buy a TPS plug or connector with a pigtail that will just plug right in. Let's see if I can get it in there. There it goes. So, and that will have a nice secure connection, you know, if you're running the LT throttle body. For the life of me, I could not find my IAC anywhere to test, you know, just so I could show you guys that the IAC does work on the, you know, it does connect and work, but I couldn't find it anywhere. But everything I could find online, that the connector is the same. I'm assuming that the wiring is the same as well. Alright, so please don't hold that against me. I'm not using that, so I'm assuming that the wiring is the same as far as the pin location. Alright, so I am on the Holley system. If you can look right down here, this is my coolant sensor, which I'm using the factory LT1 coolant sensor in the water pump. The Holley plugs right into that, no issues. We do have some extra stuff down here. Let's see if I can show you. They have an extra connector for a fuel pressure sensor if you want to run that. Let's see, and I got another one down here, I think. And we have oh, that's the IAC connector there. Alright, so that's that. Just had those tucked in there for now. The IAT, the intake air temperature sensor, it plugs into the factory LT1 sensor. I just have it sitting in this boot for now. There is a bunch of extra options with the Holley stuff. They have the fuel. Let's see here. This is your injector harness here. Like I said, this is a lot of this stuff is not done. This is my oil pressure sensor, which is not hooked up yet. Okay, I have to buy. I'm going to buy a Holley sensor that'll plug into this, which I believe this is the same as like the LS style too, if you wanted to run that. But I'm going to buy one that'll screw into this port back here. You got. This is a map sensor plug here. If you wanted to run a map sensor. The Holley does come with a built-in map sensor. I think it's a 1-bar sensor, so if you're, you know, boosted, supercharged, turbo, whatever, you'll have to run an external map sensor because the internal one will not hold that. So I'm not using it as of right now, but it's going to be in the future. I think that's it back here. So it's got a couple cool little things that are, you know, I have been really wanting to hook up the fuel pressure sensor just to monitor that. I think that's a nice feature. Something else I wanted to tell you guys, the Holley kit does not come with a connector for the alternator. So I know a lot of you guys are looking at this for F-bodies. So what I did with my original LT harness that I had, I basically just cut the alternator connector out of it. And then just ran 12 volts to it. It works fine. I think some people say you have to run a resistor in line, but I didn't do that. It's literally just 12 volts to the alternator, and the alternator charges fine. I get like 14, just over 14 volts at idle. So let's see. Injectors, like I said, you want to get the Holley harness with the EV1 style injectors. That would be this style here. Okay, this is the Holley harness, and it plugs right in, and they are labeled too. It tells you like it's number 6, so they are labeled. Just wanted you guys to know that. Let's see, I think that's about it under here. Or well, I don't have the hood on there, but so. And if you guys have any questions or anything, just, you know, holler at me, send me a PM, or just, you know, leave a comment, and I'll try and get back to you and let you know, you know, an answer. I'll kind of give you a walkthrough on the, you know, setup and startup of the car. Well, I don't know if I'm going to start it up, but so this is the handheld here. Fuel pump primes for 5 seconds is what it's set to right now. But as you can see, I don't know how well this video is going to come out, but as you can see, there's, you know, a bunch of different options on here. This is what I usually use for my gauges. I do have some of these gauges do work, but if you wanted to run your gauges on the F-body, I'm assuming that if you wanted them to work as far as like oil pressure and temperature, you can run a separate sending unit, maybe even a factory style sending unit, and just run it basically straight into where your old harness would plug inside the car. You know, you're just bypassing the old LT engine harness, and then you just have to tap into it to send the signal from the sending unit to your gauge. If you're running a factory LT1 sensor, I don't see why you would have any issues with that. Personally, I find it easier on my car just to run aftermarket sending units, so I can have them on my gauges, but I'm also going to have everything hooked up on here. This thing's pretty awesome. I love it. It does everything I want it to. I have the PCM, the Holley ECU, PCM, whatever you want to call it, sitting right there. And you know, I have it there because those LEDs all mean something. You know, just to make sure, like a couple of them are, you got cam and crank signal and a couple other things, communication with the PCM to the handheld, which this is the handheld. So I like it there, so that way I can drop that down, and if I have an issue, I can see those are kind of like warning lights to tell you, kind of giving you an idea of what's going on with it. But this is pretty cool though. You can go through the menu, go to home, and when you first turn the ignition on before you start it, you'd go to Wizard, and you would go to this Wizard button here, and you would go through the menu, and it would set up. It's got options in here for everything. You know, multi-point fuel injection. You would say GM, LS, Universal, you know, Mustang. Because this is an LT, but as far as the Holley is concerned, it doesn't know what engine is under the hood. The only thing it knows is its inputs. So, you know, for this, I just put LS, and then you go next, and number of cylinders, you would click on 8. I'm not going to finish this, so I'm just showing you for, you know, firing order. This is something important that you have to do. You have to pick the right firing order, you know, for the LT. It is different than the LS. They are different firing orders, so you need to pick the right firing order. But you'd go through, you'd pick your liters, or engine size, cubic inches, you'd set that. Target idle speed, if you're running an IAC motor, you'd set your idle speed here. It has some cam options here. This is all just to get you up and running. And you know, then you pick your ignition style. So we're running a 24X ignition style, the pickup, the trigger, and then, you know, fuel pressure. Let's see, you know, and then you pick your injectors. This is all kind of vague because you may be running stock injectors, which if you were to you know, click on OEM, it's going to have part numbers on the next screen. Your part numbers for an LT might not be in here. So I'm not running the stock injectors anymore, but when I was, I went back and I think I clicked on Holley, and Holley had an option for 24-pound injectors, and that's what I did. So anyway, this will go through the setup menu, and it'll get you to the point where you can start the car. You have to do a TPS auto set, and this is where you're just setting the throttle position sensor, so it tells you turn ignition on and engine is not started, and you'd hit, I hit the button too fast, but hang on. Alright, so you hit start, press the gas pedal slowly twice, 1, 2, and then hit next, and then it was set successfully. So you have to do that before your initial startup, so that way it knows where your pedal position is at. But the thing's pretty cool. It's got a lot of cool features in here. You can click on monitor and go through here, and it's got all you know, you can click on, this is the one I normally use, but you can go back through. You got vitals, and now, so MAT is, I think, manifold air temperature, so that's basically your intake air temperature. Duty cycle on injectors, your RPM, coolant temperature sensor, TPS, battery voltage, map sensor. Oh, and the Holley system comes with a wideband sensor. So it'll show your air-fuel ratio once you start it up, ignition timing, and IAC position. There are different screens that you can go through, different dashboards that you can set up, and you can pick what you want on the dashboard. And when you have your oil pressure sending unit and all that good stuff, it'll show on here. You know, it'll show your oil pressure and all that good stuff. Let's see. You can go through tuning. You can, you know, set up spark, fuel. I mean, it has a lot of stuff in here that you can do. You can set up your engine setup. You know, engine displacement 355, and there's a lot of cool stuff in here. My favorite is the built-in two-step. So you can go through here. My two-step's currently set at 4329. So you can change that, and you can change this on the fly too. So if I did a test hit, I can click on this guy and I can just change the two-step just like that and hit save, and it's changed. So if I did a little test hit and, you know, just too much RPM, not enough, depending on the road or the track, wherever I'm at, I can change it real quick and try it again. Which is awesome. I love it, because my old MSD box I had in the kick panel, and I had to get out with a little flat head and change it, and it took too much time. So, but you know, this is the general setup of the Holley, and you know what it does. You know, so I mean, just so you guys can kind of get an idea. I don't know. Let's see. Let me check my list, see if there's anything else I wanted to cover with you guys. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I will put the links as best I can in the description, and let you guys check it out. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, you know, whatever. This is my first video that I've ever done, so, you know, bear with me. But I hope you guys find it somewhat helpful. Overall, this system is pretty damn simple to set up. It was a little trial and error getting the pins swapped around. I had to figure that out because I thought I was just going to be plug and play, but you know, it wasn't, because I didn't realize that the Torqhead unit uses a different you know, a different cam and crank sensor. So anyway, I got a lot of cleaning up to do under the hood and to make it look all pretty. As some of you know, I am gearing up to do a turbo build on the car with these awesome looking headers here. So that's going to be, you know, more videos to come of the car, but after the turbo headers are on, the coils are all going to get mounted down low where the headers are currently at now, because the headers will come up. And that'll clean up the top of the engine a lot, you know, just get everything nice and neat looking. So there's a lot of stuff I need to do, or I want to do, that I'm not worried about right now, just because I'm going to be changing things up again, so I'm just waiting. But yeah, so that's the general setup of the Holley Terminator X. And you know, I should say that for you automatic guys, they do have setups for the automatic. I don't have any information on that stuff because I'm not auto, so I didn't research any of it. You know, it does have a connector on the harness for, you know, all your transmission stuff. So that's something that you might want to look into if you are looking at running this on an automatic. As far as stick shift, guys, this is awesome. Like it works great. So, but anyway. Hope you guys liked it, and if you do like the video on YouTube, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing more videos. It's just something I'm trying to work on, and It's fun. So I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys later. Bye. Hey guys, real quick, I didn't realize at the last bit of that GoPro video that the screen just is really hard to read. So anyway, I'm going to do a separate video at some point on how to do the setup of the Holley, of the handheld, and to get all of that working properly. I'll add this in real quick though. As far as wiring the Holley into the vehicle, not to the engine, but into the vehicle, there's literally like only 5 wires that are required. It's very simple. I think there's a 12 volt battery wire, there's a 12 volt switched wire, there's ground, and then there's I think a couple outputs that you can do, like a fuel pump turn on and stuff like that. It's very, very, very easy. I'm very impressed with the system. Anyway, like I said before, if you guys like the video, if it's helpful at all, if you want to see some more videos, just subscribe, and I'll be posting more as I'm doing more things with the car. So, see you.